Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. It's Rock and Roll Spot coming at you. Today we're going to do a. It's not part of any of our usual. It's not a segment of anything. Just anyway. I thought maybe I would talk about time travel in the X-Men comics, which, even as an X-Men fan, I might be mistaken, but as far as I can tell, the first major time travel story for the X-Men was Days of Future Past, which came out nearly 40 years ago. Anyway, so these last 40 years, time travel has become a large part of the X-Men mythos. Hell, it's even an integral part of several characters and stories. Some of which we will be going over in this video. So some of those characters. First off, we got Rachel Summers. Okay. One to keep in mind: the Summers family is kind of like the Skywalker family for X-Men. They are all fuck over the place. So, anyways, Rachel Summers is the daughter of Cyclops and Jean Grey from an alternate timeline, the Days of Future Past timeline. She was saved from death via time travel by the Phoenix Force. That's the shortest way to put it. So many shenanigans when it comes to her and time travel. She got sucked into the far off future and started Clan Ascani, which would be related to Cable. We'll get to him later. Then, when that timeline was basically eradicated, she got shunted just into the time stream itself, and rescued by it's a thing. It is. Oh. I got a headache just researching this crap. I mean, I love the X-Men, I do, but I got a headache researching some of this stuff. Anyway, Rachel's been a member of the X-Men. She's been a member of the British mutant team Excalibur. She's actually been a major, played major roles in various stories. And she's actually pretty cool. When it comes to not sure if she's still linked to the Phoenix Force or not, but she's an immensely powerful psychic. Telepathy, telekinesis, and chronoskimming, which is what she did which is why she was... Okay, what Shadowcat did in the Days of Future Past movie with Logan's mind, Rachel did in the comic with Shadowcat's mind. And she would also do the same thing with her parents' minds while they were... with the Prime timeline, Scott and Jean, so they could raise Cable for 10 years. Anyways, moving on. Speaking of Cable, moving on to Cable. Okay, so first off, his backstory was probably told in one of the most convoluted manners ever. It's a really simple thing to say. He is Cyclops' son, who was raised in the future. Simple, right? No. We gotta go all over the damn place. Is he Cyclops' son? Is he a clone? Who the hell is he in general? Not to mention the fact that he has been all over time because time travel and various villains, and he was initially just introduced as a cyborg mercenary with pouches and shoulder pads and guns the size of an 18-wheeler. It was the 90s. Yeah, cyborg mercenary from the future. Eventually, he was revealed to be Cyclops' son from the future. He has died a multitude of times. Always returning because of, well, time travel. You cannot truly kill a time traveler, because there's a point of them from earlier in the timeline or from a different timeline. One of these days, I'm going to actually get a whiteboard. We'll talk about temporal mechanics. In fact, most recently, just this past weekend, Extermination #1, he was killed by another version of himself. Yeah. We'll see how long that lasts. Next up, Shatterstar. Most convoluted origin ever. Okay, so he came to the New Mutants from the Mojoverse's future. Mojoverse being a parallel dimension ruled by a race known as the Spineless Ones. And reality TV is the thing. Kind of sounds like, Hollywood. No, I kid. A little. It's more like, by Hollywood, I'm mainly talking about, producers and whatnot. What? Am I wrong? Anyway, he was a gladiator. He came to the era of the X-Men, couldn't find them, and joined X-Force when they were just forming. Turns out he is the son of the X-Man Longshot. He is also the father of the X-Man Longshot. No, really, he is. That's like, seriously, that is legit. Yeah. And also he is somehow linked to a man from Earth by the name of Benjamin Russell. In all the research I did, I could not find anything that really explained how it was they were linked before they merged. But somehow, yeah, for some reason, like I said, most convoluted origin ever. Next up, we've got Bishop. Okay, so Bishop initially was a member of the Xavier Security Enforcers, or XSE, in a dystopian future. Because, really, are there any other types of futures than dystopian futures? Not that I can tell. He's, depending on the writer and the way the wind blows, he's either stuck in present day or voluntarily staying in the present day. He will do anything he can to try and prevent his future the future he's from coming to pass, such as his initial mistrust of Gambit, based on the fact that he knew how to explain the Witness. He thought that that a man he knew called simply the Witness was Gambit. And he was probably initially intended to be the Witness, Gambit. And also hunting down Hope Summers, the mutant messiah, through the time stream. More on that in a second. Speaking of Hope Summers, frickin' Summers family. She was the first mutant born after the Scarlet Witch depowered all but about 200 mutants. She was raised on the run by Cable in the time stream. They were constantly going further and further into the future, on the run from Bishop. Now, the reason for that is that Bishop, it turns out, is aware that the timeline that Bishop is from, mutant kind had almost been wiped out, and then along came the mutant messiah, and she reignited the spark of mutant kind at the cost of 1 million normal human beings. And so the camps, M brands, so on and so forth. There's also a lot of villains who are time travel related. Strife, who is an evil clone of Cable. Really, that's his big thing is, I look just like I'm an evil clone of Cable. But he also does not have the technovirus that Cable has, so he actually can use his powers to their full potential. So I mean, there is that. He doesn't have to compensate with gigantic guns. There's Ahab. Ahab is an odd one. He was a cybernetic servant of the Sentinels from the future. He hunts mutants with brainwashed mutants called Hounds, of which Rachel Summers initially was one. He was also briefly Apocalypse's Horseman Famine, because the guy that hates and hunts mutants is totally going to serve an ancient mutant. That makes perfect sense. You got Trevor Fitzroy, who ran around mostly in the 90s as the nemesis of Bishop. In fact, he was the reason why Fitzroy made the portal that caused Bishop to come to the present. But it was a one-way portal, because that's what he could make. He could also make teleportation portals, but yeah. Apparently, it was revealed in an issue of X Factor in the recent past. He was killed during a rebellion and resurrected. Only the person who resurrected him couldn't resurrect him with a soul, and so that's why he became a villain. Which is actually kind of an interesting origin for the character. I was surprised when I read that. We got Nimrod. Nimrod is a sentinel type from various future timelines. Initially from the Days of Future Past future timeline, which we'll get to in a little bit. Now, on a side note, there is a character named Bastion. Bastion is what happened when the initial Nimrod went into the Siege Perilous with Master Mold. The two merged into Bastion. Bastion would be a thorn in the side of the X-Men on multiple occasions, especially after the Onslaught story, when he was in charge of Operation Zero Tolerance and, in fact, had Xavier in custody for a while. Wolverine, when he was the Horseman Death, killed him. The Church of Humanity has a good chunk of a Nimrod, and you've utilized it for various nefarious purposes. As for Bastion, he has since returned. During the Messiah arc, he was one of the major forces standing against the X-Men. Now, more recently, he after the Terrigenesis cloud nearly wiped out mutant kind, he changed his directives so that instead of wiping out mutant kind, he was going to protect mutant kind until there was until a point came that mutant kind flourished enough so that he could hunt them down and destroy and kill them. Then he worked with Emma Frost, Miss Sinister, and a mentally mucked with Havoc to try and make Mother Vine a reality. Mother Vine would make mutants out of everybody, or at least a good portion of people. The temporarily displaced X-Men shut it down though, and X-Men Blue. Actually, just a couple months or so ago, actually. Anyway, so on to storylines. Days of Future Past and Present. So Days of Future Past, honestly, it's fairly similar to the movie, but there are still differences. A lot of differences. Past, Kitty Pryde's mind is sent from a dystopia 2013 to 1981 by Rachel Summers to stop the assassination of Senator Robert Kelly by Mystique and the Brotherhood. This kind of fast tracks the Mutant Registration Act, and yeah, bad shit happens. Present, Ahab, and the version of Franklin Richards from the Days of Future Past timeline appear in the present, each looking for Rachel Summers. Turns out it's not actually Franklin Richards, but rather a psychic imprint of him from when he died. Days of Future Past actually has some iconic imagery to it. First off is the cover to Uncanny X-Men number 141, which has an older Wolverine standing in front of a grown-up Shadowcat, and both of them are standing in front of a wall with all these posters of X-Men on it. All these headshots of X-Men and slain or basically, it just says the only two that aren't either slain or apprehended are Wolverine and Shadowcat. The rest are dead. It's a really cool poster, and there's I think it's actually been recreated various times in I want to say as as like three-dimensional art, basically, like sculptures and whatnot, action figures, gaming miniatures, so on and so forth. Then there's also I want to say it's from Uncanny 142, Wolverine being incinerated by a Sentinel. They're mid-fastball special. It's kind of those oh shit moments. Alright, so next up, Legion Quest. There aren't really, there are probably some time travel stories that I'm missing between Days of Future Past, Days of Future Present, as well as Days of Future Present and Legion Quest, but they weren't ones that really had major impacts. And just because a character from the future, for example, was the issue of Uncanny X-Men where Rachel Summers and Nimrod come to the present, and Nimrod had a running story arc himself. But Legion Quest. Okay. Professor X has a son named Legion. Well, David Haller. He goes by the name Legion. There's a show on FX focused on him. Apparently, it's very well regarded. Now, each of Legion's personalities, because Legion has multiple personalities, and each one has a power of its own. Legion himself has the power of time travel. So he decides that after he comes out of a coma and is in control of his faculties, as opposed to one of his personalities, one of his alternate personalities, he decides that he is going to go back in time and change things so that he can know the love of his father. So he figures he'll kill Magneto, and that'll in that way, no Magneto, no need for Xavier to form the X-Men, and he can, raise his son, raise and love his son, and, everyone lives happily ever after, right? Nope. He accidentally kills Xavier, and of course he's chased to the past by a handful of X-Men, including Bishop. The X-Men that follow him into the past, with the exception of Bishop, when Xavier is killed, immediately disappear. This leads to the Age of Apocalypse story, which sometime we'll talk about that. But it's the best way to explain why Bishop didn't disappear is because he's already temporarily displaced previously. So it's just like, I'm from way over here. All this stuff, that doesn't affect me because I'm from way over here. But yeah, next on the list, Battle of the Atom. And again, there are probably time travel related tales that I am skipping over. But the temporarily displaced original X-Men, as well as the modern day X-Men, are faced with a future X-Men team who insist that the original five be sent back to their original place in time, lest a catastrophe befall the X-Men. Of course, it's not what it seems. It turns out that the X-Men have come to the present from the future are really the Brotherhood, and Dazzler became the first mutant president and was immediately assassinated, and yeah, there's all kinds of crap going on. So, next up we have Messiah War. Now, Messiah War, I mentioned Hope Summers earlier. So, Hope Summers had what is referred to generally as the Mutant Messiah. She was the first mutant born after the events of House of M, where the Scarlet Witch said, no more mutants, and the mutant population dropped from, I want to say, multiple millions to 198. Messiah, I'll go into the finer details of Messiah Complex, but basically Cable saves the girl, and we find out that it's possible she might create the future that Bishop is from. So Bishop is now trying to kill Cable, kill the girl, but Cable is going to protect her at all costs, so he goes into the future to raise her, and Bishop follows. Bishop would eventually enlist the aid of Strife, who's not as dead as I thought at that point. I was reading kind of on the radar at that point. Anyway, so Strife in the far ass future, Strife and Bishop would be there, and X-Force would get pulled to that point in time in the future, and they'd fight Strife, and eventually, Strife and Bishop were defeated, and Hope was reunited with Cable, and X-Force made it back to the present. But this is what the X-Force mentioned in this is Wolverine's initial X-Force team. It was a mutant hit squad. There was also some time travel in the story Second Coming, which was the finale of the that arc, the Mutant Messiah arc. Again, that's something we'll get to at a later date. There's also a side story. There was a side story in Second Coming that focused on X-Club being forcibly shunted to the future and figuring out how to prevent a future from occurring, and they did. But anyway, that's all I got for today. Yeah, that's a bit rambly, I know. And yeah, there are going to be lots of videos that are going to be very rambly because, yeah, reasons and stuff. I'm sorry, I meant to actually get this video shot and put up yesterday, but to be perfectly honest, my ass was just too well kicked from work, so I needed to rest. Sorry. My apologies. So anyways, as always, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. The links to my social media and my Patreon are in the description box down below. If you're going to subscribe, hit the bell icon. That's it for today. This is Rock and Roll Spock signing off, saying live long and rock hard.